Welcome to NPO Showcase. I am Sister Barbara Hansen, the Community Outreach Coordinator here at the Community Media Center. NPO Showcase provides visibility to the many nonprofit organizations in the greater Grand Rapids area, organizations that improve the quality of life in our city and throughout our community. My guest on this first segment today is Mary Dailey Brown. She is the founder and the director of SowHope. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
Mary, what exactly is SowHope? What's its mission?
The mission of SowHope is to inspire women around the world through wellness, education, and economic opportunities.
And how did you have that vision?
Well, originally, I've traveled quite a bit around the world. I've been to over 40 countries and through volunteer and work-related experiences. And I discovered something about 5 or 6 years ago. I began to notice, to a greater degree in the third world countries, the plight of women.
Yeah.
And I began to have a gnawing feeling about what was going on there. And I decided that I should dedicate the rest of my life to helping these women. I think they're as a large group, probably the most oppressed people in the world.
Very fine. How did you come up with the name SowHope?
Well, when I chose that name, I really wanted it to be ambivalent. I wanted it to show the desperation of women, and on the other hand, I wanted it to be hopeful.
I told somebody yesterday I was doing SowHope, and they thought we must be making sewing things, which is fine.
Well, the problem was I was looking for a name for a long time, and finally one night I decided that night I would make my decision, and I had a dictionary next to me, and all night long I kept waking up and looking up words in the dictionary, and I really couldn't find that perfect mix. And when I woke up in the morning, literally I woke up, I woke up late through a sleepless night. It was a bright morning, and I really could see written right across the eye of my forehead, SowHope. And it said, sharing opportunities with women. And I went to the internet and I said, well, that's an interesting name. And I typed in SowHope, and up came 752 references to the line in the prayer by St. Francis of Assisi that says, where there is despair, let me sow hope.
Perfect.
And I said, wow, this isn't just a name, it's a call to action.
Right.
And I really thought it was a good name.
It is. It is
Thank
wonderful. I think you gave us a little bit of the history in terms of your own travel in third world countries. You want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've noticed about the plight of women, because it certainly is universally dismal.
Yeah, what I would notice traveling through third world countries, and we were doing projects, a lot of times very helping projects, building schools, working in orphanages, medical projects. What I began to notice is that as you'd go into a village, you would see a lot of men, and they would really literally just be sitting around, drinking tea.
I've seen that too.
Playing games, table games, talking to each other, smoking from a common pipe. And you really wouldn't see any women. And then when you would drive out of the village, then you'd see the women in the fields, carrying water, growing things, and literally doing all the work. And I began to do some research and realized that 80% of the world's farmers are women. And they actually produce 80% of the world's food. And they don't get to use big combines and big machines. They do it all by hand. And they really work like slaves. They also always had the hardest jobs. I noticed in one project in Asia, they were building a road, and the women's job was to shovel the rocks. They had the job of picking the rocks to break them into gravel, and then shoveling. And the men were driving the machinery. And any time there's hard work to be done in this part of the world, the women get that job. Mm-hmm. So it became pretty obvious that there was a really unfair burden put on women.
And the childbearing goes along with that. I mean, that piece of their life doesn't stop.
Right. They have 100% of the responsibility to take care of the family too. And interestingly, they also, if somebody doesn't get to eat during the day, if they prepare the food and there's no food left, they're the ones that don't get to eat. Mm-hmm. So it's really a thankless, difficult life for women in the third world.
And I belong to Women in Black, and most of the violence, it's the women and the children who are the victims of the violence too. I mean, I think when we're fighting a war, we do think of the soldiers, and I don't mean to belittle that at all, but I think the women and the children are the victims that we don't think about.
Terrible victims. For example, right now in Sudan, one of the spoils of war, for some unknown reason to me, but it's always rape.
Yes.
And wherever the men go, if they take a place, they always rape the women. And it's a historical and global problem.
Right. So how is your program going to address all this?
Well, we have decided to focus on areas that we think people can get behind, governments can get behind, people from all sides of the spectrum can get behind. We've chosen very basic programs, very basic help, and if you have a problem getting behind the programs that we've decided to support, then you really have a problem. We've decided to partner with people in the countries. We're looking for people who already have a history and a reputation for helping women, and then go alongside them to encourage them and to provide for them funding for outcome-based projects. We have an outline of programs that we have, and those people can choose under our programs outcome-based projects, and we coach them how to do those. The partners are, they can be an agency, an NGO, a government, an individual, but it's somebody that we know and trust, or someone who's been referred to us by someone that we know and trust. And the outcome-based projects are usually time-limited, and that way we can track the resources that we're giving and see and make sure that they're actually helping women.
How are you going to gather the resources to do that?
Well, we'll do fundraising here, and in, I would say, Europe. We'll solicit foundations, individuals, groups, churches, government funding, wherever we can get the funding. We have a website, and we'll write grants.
Are there quite a few grant funding organizations that would have this as an emphasis?
Yeah, the programs that we chose are very fundable, and we did a search not too long ago on foundations in the U.S., and there were many foundations that support the kind of things that we're targeting to help women with.
Aren't there a lot of organizations that take care of women like this?
No, there are not a lot of organizations like this. In fact, when I decided that I would dedicate myself to helping women, I began to do a search, and I thought I'd go work for an organization like that. And to my incredible surprise, I found that there was really no one doing what SowHope wants to do, which is to fund the most basic needs of women internationally, of the poorest, most uneducated, most unhealthy women in the world. And I was actually stunned by this. I thought there'd be hundreds of these organizations, and there's relatively few. There's a few that are in certain countries, country-specific. There's one organization that's dedicated to helping women emerging from wars. There's one dedicated to helping persecuted Christian women. And there's the Global Fund for Women that is a broad spectrum of funding, but no one who comes alongside people in the countries and encourages them and works with them to really make a difference on the ground with the women.
Like there's UNICEF for children, but nothing of that nature.
Doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, one of the UN ambassadors, UN envoys for AIDS, Stephen Friedman, I think his name is, he's the UN envoy for AIDS in Africa, has called for an organization like this in the UN, saying it's unbelievable that there is no organization for women, which represent half the population of the world. And he basically said that the UN was a colossal failure when it came to women, particularly in regard to AIDS in Africa.
I would hope that you could team up with some really fine NGOs. There's a lot of NGOs coming out of church organizations and others that would certainly have the same heart.
We're very interested in collaborating. We're very interested in building bridges, not walls. We want to have strategic alliances with NGOs, nonprofits, other groups who are helping women, and together do a better job. We would like to ally with NGOs all over the world to really encourage each other to do this work.
Great. Are there some projects in place right now, Mary, or are you pretty fledgling at the start of this?
Well, we started in January of this year. We incorporated in February, and in March I went to visit 5 countries and met with potential partners who have since then submitted projects worth about $500,000 to us. So we have projects, literacy projects, education projects, microloan projects, medical projects in about 5 countries right now that have already been submitted to us and approved by our board.
You want to name the countries?
Sure. We're in, right now, the projects that we've prioritized and approved are in Spain, and that one is actually a safe haven for trafficked women who've come from
such a problem.
North Africa and from the former Soviet Union countries. Apparently Madrid is a place where many of them have been kidnapped too, and so there's a project there to provide a safe haven and a way out of that life. We have a literacy project in India for temple prostitutes, and there's also a project there for higher education for a woman who's getting her doctorate. In Bangladesh, we have a microloan project that's based on the very premise that Muhammad Yunus, his very same ideas that he just won the Nobel Prize for.
Wonderful.
And then we have projects in Egypt, literacy and education, and also Nigeria, a microloan and a clean water project.
Wonderful.
So now we start doing the funding. We just were approved, our tax exempt status was just approved last month, so we're going to be starting fundraising with zeal now.
You know, Mary, there's a safe water movement getting started here in the United States, right here in Grand Rapids, between Aquinas College and the Rotarians. And you know it. Okay.
I've already talked to the Rotarians, and this is a wonderful alliance. Actually,
Yeah,
they're very excited about trying to find people that I can hook them up with in the third world.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
That's wonderful. And that kind of work, to have women doing that kind of work, would be wonderful.
Be great.
You know,
Yep.
cleaning up the water supply.
Whenever you can, do 2 or 3 things with one effort is really a great thing. So giving somebody a job where they're selling clean water, for example, gives her a business and provides clean water to the neighborhood is a really perfect kind of a thing to do.
And they might even do some sewing.
Right, maybe they would. A lot of them do sewing because a lot of them do farming.
Surely.
They do sow seeds, yeah.
So that way too.
Yeah.
But a lot of seamstress kind of collaboratives
Absolutely.
and cooperatives.
A lot of the microloans are for women who weave and sew and things like that.
How does one go about connecting with SowHope in terms of?
Well, we have a website that has all of our programs listed on it and a way to give there too, and some of the information about our organization. Or you can write to us at Box 234, Rockford, Michigan, 49341.
Okay, very good. So there are some projects in place right now that
Yes.
you're fledgling getting started, and these are funded.
No, we're
raising.
raising the funds for those. Yes.
You see yourself doing some events, or exactly how do you see that happening?
We'll probably write grants for these projects, actually, and I'm also available to go speak to any group, a small group that would like to hear about this, or a person who is interested in this kind of program.
And I would think churches would be interested.
I think they would
so
be.
many
Very
need an
much.
international outreach along with. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. How many years did you say that you worked in foreign countries? I mean, in third world countries?
I actually moved to a foreign country. I lived in Spain right after I got married, and that was 25 years ago. We lived there for 4 years, and I worked overseas from here for 8 years when I worked for Bella Vista Church.
So you've really got a fairly good sense of what to expect there, and probably some good connections.
Oh, we have a lot. I don't think we'll ever have a problem getting projects. Probably more in getting the funding for the projects.
Well, we certainly hope that as a result of this program, you get some inquiries and some contacts. And I think it will create a lot of hope in people just to hear that something like this is going on. And I hope that, you get some people really involved with you, Mary.
Thank you. Appreciate
And
it.
thank you so much for being here today.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching this segment of NPO Showcase. If your nonprofit wishes to be showcased, you can contact me, Barbara, at 459-4788, extension 117.